Okay, I guess we'll get started then. Welcome to the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology, and also to the National Museum of Science and Technology. I'd like to welcome those on site for coming here, and I also like to welcome those online. Before we get started, I just want one administrative thing that I think is very important that we have to do is you have received a consent form. Those of you on site, if you would please sign it and give it to Josebo Thorben, I'd appreciate it. It's part of what the European Commission requires for us administratively for a Living Lab participants. Those of you online, if you could also please, I think you received the link and you should be able to sign virtually and send it to us. Okay, so why are we here? What is important? Well, it's all about co-creation, co-design, co-responsibilities, co-participation, coordination. What are we talking about? We're talking about STI policies, and artificial intelligence. We're also talking about natural language processing. So what we want to do is work together, several actors, to build on these two concepts. STI policies and artificial intelligence are very important, and the use of natural language processing and artificial intelligence technologies, obviously, which is the IntelComp platform, is what we're talking about. There's a lot of challenges that government face with respect to research and innovation. The challenge of transforming socio-technological systems and approaching the problems in a holistic and inclusive manner is very important. So this is why we need to work together. We need to work together, industry, government, researchers, society, and science and technology policymakers. We need to work together, but the situation is not easy. Public administrations at all levels, STI community, local actors, civil society, and citizens at different levels produce a large amount of information in different formats and in different ways. We're talking about programs, calls, grants, reports, scientific publications. There's a lot of information out there. Understanding and analyzing this data is crucial for evidence-based policymaking. Hence, it demands a series of actions that up to date has used classical forms of analyzing, and we need to build into this new technologies and ways to handle it. So we need a dynamic approach, and that's why we're here. This living lab of artificial intelligence is based on this. We want to co-create the STI policies related to EI, but we also want to co-create the IntelComp platform. I'm not going to take much more time because we have a full morning and we have a lot of things to address today. So I just wanted to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for participating. And I guess we can get started. Our first agenda item is basically a round of presentations. I know we're a lot of people, so I would like you just to say your name and your institution so we know who's around in this living lab. This is a kickoff session, so we're going to be as formal as possible. Why don't we start with the insight? You go ahead and point to the people or say what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Cecilia, for your words, and FECYT for your kindly welcome in this kickoff event. And I would like to say thank you to all of you for your attendance, be it in person or online. So let us start with the round of presentation. So my name is David Gago. I'm working for FECYT, and I'm coordinating the Artificial Intelligence Living Lab. And it's a pleasure to be here and to work for this project along with you.
I didn't even say my name. That's right. Cecilia Cabello. I'm the director of STI policy here in the Spanish Foundation. Okay. Just to get some micros on.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we go ahead and in the room.
Yes.
Why don't we start here?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Richard Benjamins. I'm the Chief AI and Data Strategist at Telefonica, also co-founder of the Observatory for Social and Ethical Impact of Artificial Intelligence, and also a board member of the Carbon Disclosure about Climate Change report.
Thank you.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Idoia Salazar. I am the president and founder of the Observatory for the Social and Ethical Impact of Artificial Intelligence. I'm specialized in ethics of artificial intelligence.
Hi, my name is Miguel Ángel Llevanas. I am director of Human Trends, a Spanish startup focused on the development of artificial intelligence products. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Fran Moreno, CEO and Chief Metaverse Advisor of the Instituto Internacional de Entretenimiento e Innovación, Madrid.
Hi, my name is Lorena and I'm working in data and I'm working for communication field.
Hello, my name is Daniel Jimenez, also from Intelcomp. I'm coordinating the organization related with the protection, the management, communication, these kind of things, and also a pleasure to speak here.
Hi, my name is Rafael Martinez. I work in civil with Madrid.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Javier Díaz. I am a computer technician and I work in Syria with Living Lab for some things.
Jesus.
María Barroso.
Sorry.
Same thing. Javier and Rafa, and also with David. I will do the serial working in the Intelcomp.
Hello, my name is Sandra Martin. I'm working with them in the same.
Hello, my name is Justiz. I am a professor in the Universidad Carlos III de Madrid and I am also a member of the IntelComp team.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is FECYT Garcia and I work for the SEDIA, pushing the initiatives in the strategy of artificial intelligence in Spain.
Hi, my name is Joshua San Martin. I work here at FECYT and I'm part of the IntelComp team.
Torben.
Hi, I'm Torben and I'm project manager for IntelComp Project.
Thank you. I guess we'll go online then. We'll go in the order that we see everybody. Let's see, Amparo Alcina. Okay. Maybe she doesn't hear us. Let's see, Aurélien Layen.
Hello, I'm Aurélien Layen from the French Agency for Evaluating Scientific Activity, HCRS.
Babis Savakis. Okay. Maria Barroso.
No, so
Here. Oh, sorry. David Nieto. Not here. Okay. This is going to be.
Hi, good morning. I'm from SATEC and I've been working olderly in the corpus viewer with Joseba and company.
Okay. Ángeles Marca.
Evangelos.
I can't see him. I can't go down. No? Georgia Mac. Yeah.
Hello, I'm from HFRI in Athens, Greece.
How do you go down? Ah, okay. Where are we? Georgia, no, Jose Antonio Espinosa.
Hi, I'm Jose Antonio Espinosa, and I'm a research assistant at Universidad Carlos III.
Juan Muros.
Hello, hi, my name is Gerardo Muros. I'm a PhD candidate in Universidad de Granada using machine learning, deep learning tools, and also as an aeronautical engineer, very involved in Instituto de Ingeniería de España in several activities regarding artificial intelligence. Thank you for the invitation.
Luis Ureña. ¿Es Sandra here? No.
Falta este, no, Juan José Pérez.
No, Juan José es de aquí. Ricardo Palomo.
Hello. Hello. Morning. Yes, my name is Ricardo Palomo. I am a full professor at the Universidad San Pablo CEU. I am especially involved in with Odisseia and also in relation with the metaverse. Thank you.
Salvador Ross.
Hello, good morning everybody. I'm Salvador Ross. I'm from Open Distance University in Spain. At this moment, I'm the director of the innovation Laboratory of Digital Humanities. The research director in the project Daily Rights is devoted to use artificial intelligence for understanding lyrics, and the project CLS is computer literary studies that is involved as well in the using of artificial intelligence to improve the research process in the studies, in literary studies.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think that's everybody that's online for now and on site. Remind everyone, those of you that are online that have connected to sign the consent form to participate in the Living Lab. It's very important. And I think we'll go on to our next agenda item. Ezequiel. The floor is yours.
All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I think I'm the first one, so the next, there will not be any problem with that. Okay, just a small introduction from the Ministry of Economical Affairs and Digital Transformation. We launched 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, the ENIA, the strategy, national strategy of artificial intelligence. So we will speak about different initiatives we have inside. We will not get everyone, but some of them, the most important ones. Just numbers, 600 million euros. So it's a lot of money. Obviously, it's come from the funds of Europe. So it's a very special moment in the investment from the government. So it's a unique position right now in these years. Objectives, they are quite easy. Excellence in scientific way, for creating a qualified employment, because during this last year we haven't enough money for these people, and we need it. We want to change, to transform the predictive system of Spain. Change, obviously, in this area, we want to change the Spanish language specifically. It's not pushing artificial intelligence in general. It's only in Spain, with Spain, always with humanistic values on it and sustainable AI. So, different initiatives, missions, what we call AI missions, is we as a country, we need to change to define our big challenges as a country in very general way. So, for these challenges are major social challenges. So we have defined thematic areas, 5 thematic areas that we think we will be able to change the country. The first is, and is very important for Spain, is agri-food, what we call agriculture and food. So we have to find what big challenges we have inside this area. Second one is energy. Right now, it's very important, the energy area. The third is health, because we will have many people, so we have to rethink how the health functions. Fourth is environment, and 5, it's the employment. The second one is Spain, what we call Spain Talent Hub. What is that? Spain has historically lost a lot of talent. Many people have had to go away to another countries to look for a new life, because in the last year, in the previous crisis, many people have gone away. So, and in some way we have assumed this is the normal situation, that, okay, our best scientists have to go to another countries to get the best project. And this is really the best, the normal situation. We have to rethink it. So we will try to change it. Not fully, but a little bit. So we are financing highly prestigious researchers on AI specifically, so they can go back to Spain, create a research group in host centers, and develop an ambitious line of research, and with full autonomy. And this is the way financing directly these researchers to attracting, recover, and retain these big researchers. Okay, university chairs, the Spanish cátedras. It's also another piece for retaining people, not only get back, for retaining the Spanish researchers. So we want to, the objective is to finance university chairs in a way of a collaboration between public and a private collaboration between them, creating these chairs for boosting the AI research. For the public-private is for helping the transfer knowledge between the university and the companies, generating a critical mass of PhDs in AI, of course, and also to create more programs specifically created for artificial intelligence in the universities. Okay, this one sounds like APC quantum. Perhaps you think, oh, what is that exactly? It's high performance computing, specifically in quantum computing. What is that? It's if you don't know it, it's we are trying to create. We will create the first quantum computing in Spain. With this quantum computing, we will install it in Spain in the BSC, Barcelona Supercomputing Center. And the objective is to put it available to research community, because we will create as a cloud, a remote access. We want to create a remote access for the researchers could access directly from remote access to this quantum computing. And also for creating developed libraries, specific libraries of quantum algorithms, but this is really different way of developing. It's not the classical way of develop, it's a very special way of develop to different algorithms. And what we want to create is quantum ML, quantum machine learning. It's a very, very specific area of knowledge. It's a challenge, and very few people, teams in the world are pushing this kind of development. So we will try to boost it. Why to do it? To applicable to real problems like chemistry, to find new drugs in chemistry, finance, optimization of supply chains, on cryptography, also for post-quantum cryptography. So this is a big challenge, the quantum ML. Next one, the National Program for Green Algorithm. Okay, right now is very famous, our energy crisis we have right now. It's a pity we have to talk about it, but in some way there is something bigger. The elephant in the room is the climate change. We have to approach some solutions. So, as you know, we have also a problem that we put it in there, is the ML training. When you are making an ML training, we are spending a lot of energy. And also when we speak about natural languages training, because the transformers are very, very expensive, not only in economic way, although in energy side. So we are in CEDIA, we have to do our bit. So for addressing this challenge, these economical transitions, we have two different elements to support it. First is minimizing the environmental footprint of AI during training time and inference time. When every data scientist, when you are making the development, we need to convince you that we need to make a systematic analysis of your consumption, energy consumption during your training. And you, as a data scientist, when training, sometimes you look for perfection to get the best 100% of the percentage of accuracy of your training. And sometimes for looking for 1% more of accuracy, you are increasing 10 to 20% of the energy consumption. So you as a developer, you have to have this in mind. Okay, for 1% of accuracy, I will increase 20% of energy. Is this okay? So we have to convince the people and give different ways of enhance the development of training. And also another way of energy is using AI as a tool for enabling technology to face environmental challenges. For example, drones with cameras using computer vision to detect the changes in the forest, in the trees, for example. Another important and really related with an IntelComp project is our plan for the promotion of natural language technologies. Okay, we will push development of linguistic infrastructure in the side of corpus for creating more corpuses, massive ones and very annotated small ones. We have a great investment in this. Also to creating massive models of AI, for example, Maria, it's the best, the biggest model in Spanish. Also, another initiative is to push co-official languages. Here in Spain, we have Catalan, Gallego. So we have to push this Euskera and other co-official models, co-official languages, sorry, and at least for promoting the language technology industry. And last but not least, we have to impulse the responsible AI. So here we will push the AI sandbox. That perhaps you don't know it. There will be a regulation, a forced regulation from Europe. Every company that has a high-risk artificial system will have to comply with this new regulation. So next year we will launch our sandbox, the first one in Europe, for testing these great challenges inside the pilot. This is a very specific because we are doing with the European Commission, hand with them. So we are in a special sweet position for the Spanish government. So that's some of the initiatives. So thank you very much. Next one. Okay, so it seems that we are more than 22 people attending online. So the figure has increased quite a lot. So this is good news. So next speaker, according to the agenda, is Mr. Richard Benjamin, Chief AI and Data Strategist from Telefonica and co-president of Odisea. And he's also a co-stakeholder of the IntelComp project. So he will speak about AI and natural language processing. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I think we are 15 minutes ahead of schedule,
yes.
which is kind of odd. I will speak about natural language, especially focused on Spanish language. But of course, it can partly be generalized to other languages as well. All right. Just a few minutes. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to speak about the opportunity for Spanish in the digital world, focusing on natural language processing. We all know that since a few years there has been a breakthrough in natural language processing, especially using those large language models. We all know GPT-3. It started with BERT of Google, Roberta, Facebook, and also Spanish models like Beto, Maria, and some others. And they all work on a surprisingly simple way, which they call self-supervised learning. Whereas you can see an example here on the slide where you start with a sentence, you take out a word, and then the algorithm has to predict what was the word taken out. And that it does for every sentence, for every text in the corpus. And the corpus can be millions or billions of documents, so it takes a long time. And then the model learns to predict those words. And then if you want to do a specific task, you can adapt that model to a specific area using fine-tuning. Yeah? You take a specific data set for a specific task like question answering, making summaries, or understanding, or automatic translation. Yeah? On the right-hand side, you see a conversation with GPT-3, and that looks surprisingly normal. So this is trained with a self-supervised machine learning, and then fine-tuned for question answering. So they give a lot of questions, a lot of answers, they feed it to the existing model, they train it again, and then the result is that you can ask questions to this module, and it seems to be very good answers. Of course, if you look overall, about 40% is rubbish, or 50% is rubbish, 50% is good. Here you only see the good examples. And the problem is that in advance you don't know what is good and what will be the bad examples. Yeah. But it's a trend, and it's really powerful. And this has actually increased the awareness in the market of natural language processing. Yeah. There are some studies about what's happening in the market in terms of opportunity for business, but also in terms of what kind of tasks are used for certain sectors. So document classification, in which sectors, in the health sector or in the educational sector. Yeah. So there's lots of work already where this technology can apply. And actually, if you look at the market, what companies are offering, it's very little these large language model, and it's a lot of old-fashioned grammar-based natural language processing from which already exists for 30 or 40 years. But it's just that it has created a lot of awareness in the market through all the appearances in the press. Yeah, there was even last week there was a news item in a Spanish journal of a study with BBVA, a Spanish large bank, that said 80% of all activity of artificial intelligence in Spain is related to natural language processing. I have no clue how they come to that. I seriously doubt that. But anyway, I've asked the bank to explain where this number comes from. But it means that it's important. Yeah? It's becoming increasingly more important. Actually, you can apply it in every sector. Yeah? Now, if you look at the Spanish language compared to other languages in the world, it has some specific characteristics. Yeah? From the physical world, it's about 600 million people, 480 million native speakers, 9% of GDP, of global GDP, which is about 10%, which is corresponding to the amount of people. Second language of a mother tongue and official language in 21 countries. So it's really an important language in the world. And if you look at the digital world, it's the third language on the internet, of course, after Chinese and English, the second language on most digital platforms, and also the second language in tourism. So it's really a big opportunity. Yeah? Now, the Spanish language has another characteristics that most languages in the world don't have. It's globally regulated, between quotes, by the Royal Spanish Academy, in collaboration with all the Spanish academies in other Latin-speaking or Spanish-speaking countries. Yeah? There are a few other languages that are globally regulated, like German and the Netherlands, but those have way less impact in the world. Yeah? All other languages like French or Arabic or that are spoken in many countries, every single country has a royal academy that decides how is the French for Spain, for France, how is the French for Canada, or how is French for other French-speaking countries. And so it's a fragmentation of the language, whereas the Spanish language is still a unified language, even though with variations across the world. Yeah? There is one global Spanish dictionary where every variation of the language in Colombia, Mexico, and Argentina is indicated from the meaning of this word in Argentina is, for instance, this. Yeah? So that's a different way. However, all Spanish in the digital world is built by American companies. Yeah? So it's basically it's English first and Spanish second or Spanish third. And that has three important risks. First, there is the loss of unity in Spanish because Siri speaks a certain Spanish, Alexa speaks Spanish, Cortana speaks Spanish, Google's Assistant speaks Spanish. Of course, they all do their best to use the right resources. There is no guarantee that in 20 years Siri will speak very differently than Alexa. And since all people with more and more home appliances will speak with machines, and even children have a strong interaction with those, there is a risk of fragmentation of Spanish in the digital world. Then there are two other risks that have to do with how artificial intelligence works. Yeah. So as you've seen, artificial intelligence, these large language models are trained by looking at a lot of documents produced, a lot of text produced by people. Yeah? And it learns from that, and based on that, it suggests, it helps us correcting. Yeah. So if you write something on our mobile phone, if we write a document in Word or in Google, then we get all kinds of suggestions and completions and corrections. Yeah. Now, those corrections and suggestions are based on machine learning. Yeah. So what we just seen, they are based on what people write. Yeah? Now, we've done some research, and it turns out that that most of those programs do not recognize all Spanish words. Yeah? So they use usually a commercial dictionary, and they don't use the official Spanish dictionary. And then 10% of the words are actually correct, but the systems are put a red line under it, so people start to correct it. Yeah? And that means that in the end, if people take out existing words, it means that the machine learning doesn't learn those words for the future version, and then slowly the language gets poorer and poorer because it's based on what people use. Yeah? Likewise, there's another risk of the viralization of errors, yeah? Because we more and more write incorrectly, and especially in social media, we have all kinds of abbreviations that have nothing to do with language, like in Spanish, porque, yeah? XQ. And then again, for the same reason, if a lot of people use it, a machine learning algorithm can learn those words, and they can actually suggest them, yeah? So they can viralize them. And those are risks that are actually happening for all languages in the world that become digital and are used, are offered in those tools for correction of completion, but they are not really recognized as important risks. Now, what can we do against this? There's one project, it's a Spanish project called Leia, which means in Spanish, Spanish language and artificial intelligence. And the objective of this language is that machines have to speak correct English. Yeah? So that means voice assistants and chatbots like Siri or Alexa actually should generate their output based on official sources rather than on whatever sources they can use. And also the tools that those companies use should help us correct and generate a correct Spanish. Yeah? It is a project that is run by the Royal Spanish Academy and all the academies in the other Spanish-speaking languages. And it has involvement of Telefonica. I'm involved in that for Telefonica, but also Google, Twitter, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook. Now, the project already started in 2019, just for you some examples of what has been achieved so far. If you go to Microsoft Bing, it's a search engine of Microsoft, you type in the meaning of any Spanish word, and it used to go to a commercial dictionary, now it goes to the dictionary of the Royal Spanish Academy. If you use Android phone and you use Gboard, which is the standard default keyboard of all Android handsets, then very soon this will consider the official Spanish language. So far, Google only used AI. There was no dictionary whatsoever. Just all the corrections were given by such a large language model. Surprisingly, yeah, how good it is. But then we, together with RAI, we put the official Spanish dictionary and lexicon accessible for Google, and that added like 200,000 Spanish words to the dictionary of Google, the implicit dictionary, and it reduced all the KPIs of typing. So less errors, less corrections that were corrected by people, faster typing in a minute. So really important, and this is only in Spain. It's more than 10 million users of this. Now, Google is also working on putting it in the search engine. So now if you look for meaning of a word in Spanish, then it still goes to the commercial dictionary, but Google already has committed to change that to the right. Alexa is already doing things. If you ask how do you spell, and you say a Spanish word, it takes it from the Royal Spanish Academy. If you ask for the meaning of a word, of course, Meta is going to work on the metaverse with the Royal Spanish Academy, and Twitter will build an observatory for other kinds of words. Now, Telefonica is doing also some things. We put it on the service in the televisions. You know, you can now with the remote control, you can ask what is the meaning of a word. We also made a system that reads text of a certain author, and then if you write your personal text, you can actually make it look like the author. So we did this with Arturo Perez Reverte, with a large language model about his work. And then if you write your text, then it actually suggests if you change this word for this word, then it looks like this author. We're also working on a functionality that says if you have a certain word, a Spanish word, and you give the sentence where it appears in, rather than giving the entry of the dictionary with all the meanings, you get exactly that meaning that is meant in this specific fragment. Yeah? So these are all examples how you can work with Spanish language in the digital world. Now, of course, this is still solving a problem that there is, because while you help these American companies to become more officially oriented towards the official Spanish, it is still not made in Spanish. Yeah, so there is another opportunity, which is the Spanish PERTE, which is about the new economy of a language that actually could work to put a lid of let's say less power in the hands of American companies if it's related to Spain, and more into Spanish-speaking companies. Yeah, of course, it's very important that in that we have a corpus. So we have a Spanish corpus that is shared and that can be used for training those models. So where the Maria model of the Barcelona Supercomputing Center has been trained on a corpus of the National Library of Spain, but of course there are many more corpus that could have been included to increase it. Yeah, so there's an opportunity to have one corpus, to build it, to run big models on top of that, and then adapt those models for specific cases, and then apply it to different sectors, healthcare, education. It's a huge opportunity, but it has to be done well. We looked at very little bit about Spanish corpuses, which are specifically focused on Spanish, and by 24 hours research, we already found more than 30. So there's a lot of work to do to avoid a fragmentation in the corpus, to make really create value from this PERTE. And then we saw this already. There are also risks to using natural language to AI to natural language processing. The first is, of course, bias. There's a lot of professional bias of professions in language. If you translate "she is a doctor" and "he is a nurse" to a language that doesn't know gender, and then translate back, you get "he is a doctor" and "she is a nurse." Google was notified by this already many years ago. Now it intercepts. It says if it is nurse, it says it gives the female and the male part. But it's an intervention of the algorithm. The algorithm itself cannot handle it, because it's simply a fact that there are more male doctors than female doctors, and vice versa. So that's a challenge that is being worked out now, but it's not yet solved. And the other challenge we saw already is about the carbon footprint of those models. So the large language models, they can run for 10 months, for one training session, which is a huge amount. They spend about $10 million in energy, so they have a huge carbon footprint. Some said made a study that said it's equal to 5 cars during whole their lifetime. But there is work being done. Actually, in Odissea, we are also working on this, where you can work on understanding what algorithms consume more energy and what fragments of the algorithms consume more energy, and then you can try to reduce that energy consumption for specific parts. So making green algorithms by design, than just not only measuring after the fact what is happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard, for this inspiring speech. You were able to break the line, because I mean there were 23 people registered for this event online, and there were 24 attending at some point, so it was quite amazing. So far, I mean the different speeches have been of a more global nature. And right now onwards, we are concentrating on IntelComp, and the next speeches will be based on IntelComp. So we will be describing the nature of IntelComp, the different goals, and how the Living Lab is organized, the approach, and so on. So to this aim, next speech will be delivered by Joseba San Martin, who is policy analyst at FECYT and the IntelComp project coordinator, and who will speak about the main features of the IntelComp project in terms of the goals, the approach, and the main tasks to be undertaken, and the members of the consortium. So please, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello. I'm going to briefly explain the project. So, what is IntelComp? IntelComp is a European project to build a digital platform that exploits large volumes of data on science, technology, and innovation activities with text analytics. Why do we need a project like IntelComp? We have now all STI activities digitalized, and we also have a huge improvement in text analytics, as we have seen in Richard's and Ezequiel's presentation. So we want to exploit this opportunity to get quick and novel information from data for STI policies. This is the principal aim of the project. The project is going to build a platform aimed mainly at science and innovation policymakers and research funders. So how can they benefit from a platform that exploits data with text analytics? We have seen and we have experienced with that they can benefit at different stages of the policy cycle. For instance, in agenda setting, when they want to discuss or analyze the context and the landscape of STI activities in a specific domain. For instance, in AI, if you want to, for instance, to know how the different occupations are used in AI, you may use job offers to get to know how firms are using AI in the different job positions. That would be agenda setting. They can also use this kind of platforms for evaluation of proposals for funding. That's already been done here in Sevilla with the Corpus Viewer. We have experience with that maybe several years ago. And also an agency like Vinnova, that's the Swedish innovation agency, is using this kind of tools to help evaluators of proposal for fundings to compare the proposal with the landscape in that specific area, and also to select the evaluators of the proposal for funding. And finally, we have seen that a platform like this can be used in the monitoring of the results of funded projects, okay, to link what we have funding with the results. So, and furthermore, this is one of the aims of this Living Lab, of the project, is to get involved other actors in the policy making. No? We can involve academia, industry, and citizen organizations in STI policy. This is an area where it's not only for science and innovation policies. This is a movement to involve other actors in policy making, and we think that a platform like IntelComp can help in this engagement. For instance, analyzing social needs, and also take that into account when we are defining the policies. Okay. So then what is the project about? Well, the project is a Horizon 2020 innovation action. It's not a research project. That's important to mention. It's an innovation action. We are building a platform. We are not, we are researching, but our goal is to make a platform that is going to be placed, I'm going to say it later, at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. The project started in January last year and finishes the next year. Who are we? We are 13 partners from six countries, 4 partners from public administration, SEDIA, that is the Spanish Secretary for Digitalization and Artificial Intelligence, the Greek Research Funding Agency, HFRI, or ELITEC in Greece, the French Observatory for Science and Technology, and ourselves, the Spanish Foundation for Science and Technology. So 4 partners from public administrations and research funders, 4 partners from the academia and research centers, the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, the University Carlos III of Madrid, the Athena Research Center in Greece, and the Open Air Infrastructure. And also 5 partners from the private sector. FECYT, Entity Data, Technopolis, Tilde, and the Centrum for Social Innovation in Austria. So just a quick view of what is the platform about. It's an integrated platform. So it's an end-to-end platform from the design of the policy question that we say to the indicators that we want to provide to the policymaker. So it's an integrated platform that includes innovative service, that's NLP services that we have been discussing, and tool to collect, analyze, and visualize large volumes of textual data on STI activities. The services for text analytics are integrated into 4 user tools that Jesus is going to explain after my intervention. And the services and tools are deployed, as I said, in a platform located at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. The platform, that's important, it's a generic solution that can be used in any scientific or technological domain. It's not specific for we can put the data that we want in the platform, and then the NLP services and the topic modeling and all of that is domain agnostic. Okay. Finally, the development of the platform. The platform is based on 2 existing platforms for STI policy, the Corpus Viewer here in Sedia, and also Data for Impact. That's a European project also related with text analytics. Horizon, I think it was a Horizon 2020 project in which our partner, Athena Research Center, participated to use text analytics in the monitoring of results and impact of health-related research projects. Well, to develop the platform, we are using mostly open data, the OpenAI research graph, and also patents from PathStat and well, other data sets that are available through the Intelcomp newly defined data lake. And the platform is being tested in 3 domains of STI policies. As Cecilia mentioned, we are dealing here with, sorry. No, it's, oh, sorry. A ver. Ahí está, ¿no? Sorry. I think we were here. Okay. So the platform is being tested in 3 domains of STI policy. We are dealing here in the project with science and innovation policy. So for instance, artificial intelligence, the public policy for artificial intelligence, it's not only science and innovation, as Ezequiel mentioned, but here we are talking about science and innovation policies, okay? And here we are testing the platform in 3 domains: artificial intelligence, cancer, and also climate change. And we are co-creating the platform, and I would say optimally the policies through 3 living labs. This one, also the Cancer Living Lab in France, and also the climate change living lab in Greece. So that's all for my part. Now Jesus is going to explain in detail the tools of the platform. Thank you.
Okay. So yes, I will send Jesus. So I will introduce Jesus. So Jesus is professor, full professor at the Department of Signal Theory and Communications at the University Carlos III, and he's fully involved in the design and the development of the IntelComp platform and the different functionalities of the platform, and that's why he will speak about the 3 main tools. And this speech will take us a bit longer because there are many things to explain. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Yeah, as David and Joseba said before, what I'm going to do is just basically expand the slide number 4 presented by Joseba into 25 slides. So I will talk about the technological motivations under IntelComp and also the main IntelComp tools. So let's start. I will start with the technological motivation. Basically, at the core of the IntelComp platform, we have tools for the analysis and processing of large document collections. As Joseba said, these document collections can be of any kind, but well, we are thinking more specifically in collections associated to the STI activity of a group of researchers, a single researcher, an institution, a university, a region, a country, or a public administration. So this includes papers, patents, research projects, clinical studies, code repositories, even company websites of companies associated to the field under interest, or even funding agency work programs. So any collections of documents that could contain information that could be relevant for the analysis of the STI activity on a given region would be potentially used by the platform. So one motivation for IntelComp incorporates tools based on classical statistical analysis for processing the metadata associated to this corpus. And this is really helpful because some of the corpus or the databases that we are using contain a lot of useful information in metadata. For instance, well, if we talk about the collections of research papers, we have metadata associated to authors, affiliations, funding institutions, publication dates, keywords, and so on. And also, we can also take classical approaches to the analysis of the text using analyzing the words appearing in documents and using these words as some form of keywords. So this is useful, but it has some limitations that are being the main technological motivation for IntelComp. I will just mention two examples. If we may be interested in classifying our collection of documents, our corpus, into different categories. For instance, if we are interested in analyzing what is the state of nanotechnology in the research publications from Spanish authors, well, we would like to classify documents, all the papers published by Spanish authors into, or selecting which one of them are talking about nanotechnology. So we could try to do that using the keywords present in the papers, but well, we may find a lot of issues there. Many papers may have no metadata, maybe papers may have not keywords. For other tasks, we may have not the appropriate metadata, or even the keywords may have not enough granularity, or maybe we are interested in a very new field and well, we may not use standard taxonomies or labels associated to standard taxonomies to do that. So in order to obtain good tools for selecting documents for specific or very specific domains, we may have troubles if we try to do it with classical approaches. And another example of a limitation of this process is when we are interested in connecting documents in a collection. So finding which are the documents most related to a given one. For instance, Joseba mentioned one application before, when we are looking for project proposals that might be similar to the one we are going to evaluate, or that has been submitted for funding. Well, we need good tools to connect documents based on their semantic similarity. And for this kind of tasks, the metadata information is not helpful at all. We can identify co-authorship, or we can identify the similarity of authors, or the present on some common keywords. But in order to measure more precisely the semantic similarity between two different documents, well, using the textual information of the documents could be much more helpful. And connecting these components is a very important part of the IntelComp, or the technical tools in IntelComp project. If we can connect similar documents among themselves, we can get graphs showing the semantic relationship between all the components in all collections of papers or all research projects. And if we have metadata associating papers or projects to their authors, to their researchers, we can use these connections to establish similarities, semantic similarities in the work doing by different authors, or we can establish connections between in their institutions and so on. So the good similarity measures between documents is of extreme great utility to do a lot of job, not only analyzing the documents themselves, but also the agents participating in the STI activity. So this is the main motivation of IntelComp, is that, well, as it has been said before, Richard said it before, we have breakthrough technologies in natural language processing and also in deep learning and artificial intelligence, in graph analysis, and we have also powerful infrastructures for highly parallel computing, and all these technologies can be used to exploit information from raw text sources and extract information with much more quality than using classical conventional approaches. We can get much better semantic document representation. We can categorize, classify documents beyond standard taxonomies. We can, for the classification with respect to categories that refer to very new topics emerging in different fields. And also we can establish better semantic connections between documents from heterogeneous sources. So we can connect papers with patents dealing with similar topics and so on. So these are the basic, the core technologies we are using in IntelComp. We are using scalable multilingual NLP pipelines, so we have included some machine translation tools, so we can work with corpus in different languages, and we are using last generation neural-based language models for domain classification of documents into different domains, classification according to standard categories from standard taxonomies, or we can even use them for topic modeling, for letting the computer to discover what are the main topics in a collection of documents without requiring an initial supervision. These tools will be useful to search documents based on keywords. And we will use technologies for the generation of very large graphs using the parallel processing implementation, and the exploitation of these graphs will be useful for analyzing agents. So the focus is not only on the documents itself, but also on the agents participating on the documents. Agents mean here the authors, the funding institutions, the universities or the research institutions where the authors work and so on. And also, since we usually have metadata associated to the dates of the documents, we can also are ready to do some temporal analysis and analyze the evolution of a given field or a technology based on the content of the publications. So summarizing all of this, IntelComp is a platform for public administration, but not only for public administration. As we have said before, it could be useful for institutions or even for the researchers, and that provides tools for STA policy based on evidence. We expect to provide technology services useful at all phases of the STI policy management, from the preparation of calls to the evaluation processes, or even for authors for the analysis of a given field of research, which is based on open data. We are at this time we are working with open databases, papers from Archive, Semantic Scholar, patents from PatStats, or open data. Also, the platform could be ready to be used by users that can analyze their own private data. And it is supported by innovative analytic services, which means NLP, artificial intelligence, and also the required HPC and cloud infrastructure. So this graph here summarizes a little bit the different steps on the process of developing IntelComp. First of all, we have analyzed the framework for STA data policies, and as a result of that, we have identified what are the data sources that we need, the collections of papers, projects, patents, and code repositories or whatever, and the relevant indicators. What are the indicators that we need to do our work? The second steps would be the analysis in the context of the living labs, and I think this is one of the reasons that why we are here. A key component of IntelComp is the co-creation. We expect to develop our tool and to adapt them to the necessities of the different living labs. So this could help us to prioritize the indicators that where we should pay the most of our attention. And well, we will analyze the technical feasibility of these indicators, so that and this will be as a result of that, we will have some tickets for the developers, the work they have to do. After that, we will ingest the data sources that will be incorporated into the data catalog, and we will start the data analysis and the training of the neural models in order to get the enriched metadata, the information extracted from the artificial intelligence algorithms that will be ready to be used by the end users. And well, after that, we will need some user stories, some use cases, so that we can design the proper visualization dashboards for the end users. Well, this is a long list of we have done during the preparation of the proposal, a large list of policy questions that could be afforded in some way by the IntelComp platform. Well, just as an example, a policy question could be: are companies adapting to technological transformation trends in their respective sectors? Well, we can see what we have to see, what data sets we need to try to answer this question using the IntelComp service. In this case, we may need the company websites to know the profile of the company, what is the company working in, and also scientific papers and patents to analyze what is the trend of the technology at this time. And so in this way, with the IntelComp service, we'll analyze all this data to detect technological transformation trends in a specific sector, analyze the temporal evolution of topics, and analyzing how the company is responding to these technological changes. Well, these kind of questions, well, we have elaborated a long list of them, and well, this is the kind of questions that we think we can try to solve with the IntelComp platform. And well, I'm going to just explain a little bit how the platform has been structured. Well, this graph here is just a representation of the architecture of the platform. Basically, we have well, there are 6 components here. One is the interactive model trainer on the left, the IntelComp central services, the IntelComp local nodes, IntelComp frontend, the Intel evaluation workbench, and the STI participation portal. So I will go just to talk. I'm going to talk just a little bit about each one of them, and this will conclude my talk. The central services are responsible for the highly demanding computational model. So if we have to, as Richard said before, we are using natural language processing tools that require a high computational load. So we need an infrastructure to do that. And here in the central services, we will have also the open data, large databases with projects, articles, patents, company information, job offers, social media information, and this will be stored and organized in the data lake. We have a back office there with some tools from natural language processing and artificial intelligence, processing this information and generating additional metadata that can be useful for different services. Well, we might have some local nodes that could be interesting, for instance, if some user will be using their own private data, so there may be some privacy issues to share it in the local, in the data lake. So for these cases, and well, we might have some additional local nodes. And well, basically, the other 4 components are the 4 main tools, technological tools of the IntelComp platform. So I will go on then. The first one is the STI viewer, which is basically the main tool for public policy analysis, planning, and monitoring, at least from the point of view of the user. So the STI viewer is the application that will assist the policy analyst in their work, the agenda setting and the monitoring of the stages of the policy cycle there. Well, so it includes some visualization tools that will show the results of the analysis, topic representations of the topics discovered by the topic modeling algorithm through enriched dashboards. Offers the possibility of time and geographic STI analysis, will offer the possibility of users to compare different corpus or to profile different STI agents, finding the most relevant papers from a given author, the impact of the authors in his research community, or the profiles of institutions, etc. The evaluation workbench, the second tool, is conceived to be useful for the evaluation processes. So, as it has been said before, it will be useful for the evaluation of the grant proposals at different phases. For instance, for finding research projects that can be similar to a given one, to check if some proposals have been submitted to other calls, or even for the selection of the evaluators that are more appropriate for a given research field, or given for the assignment to a given evaluator of different papers or project proposals that can be useful to them. Well, the participation portal is a service targeted to 2 different kind of users. First one is a transparency or participation portal for users. We are talking that we are using open data, so the information is can be some of the results of the analysis can be shown to general users, to general citizens, but it is expected to be a portal that could be useful to be useful for the prospection of the STI for academy and industry. And finally, the 4th component is the interactive model trainer. Once we have a new corpus that we want to analyze for some reason, we need to do some offline work before showing the results to the users. For instance, we might need to train some neural models or to do some topic modeling, and this require some processing that takes some time, and it might also require the supervision of the domain experts. For instance, if we are planning to select from a subcorpus of documents from a very specific domain, well, we need to provide some information to the neural models about specifying what is the domain that we are interested in, and in many cases this information can only be provided by an expert on the domain. So I think that this could be the only component that, at least for some use cases, would require the participation of experts in the domain, and well, they will have here the possibility of introduce information that could be helpful to improve the quality of the models. For instance, reviewing the topic models, maybe labeling some documents according to some target categories, and so on. Definition of target datasets, selection of documents, training of documents. Well, this includes all these tasks. And just to finish, this table just collects some of the, well, it's just an illustration of how these three main three tools, the STI viewer, the policy participation portal, and the evaluation workbench, can help the STI policy management at different phases of the processes. So, for instance, at the agenda setting, monitoring, and evaluation, we expect that the policy and STI analysts from the public administrations could use the STI viewer to analyze, compare, and visualize KPIs related to a specific field in STI. Also, during the agenda setting, monitoring, well, the policy officer and STI managers from ministry, funding agency, academic, business, and organizations could use the participation portal to look at the results of the analysis there and use it for further work. And finally, during the implementation of a call, we can the call manager can use the evaluation workbench, well, to assist in the evaluation process, to selecting evaluators or looking for similar projects and so on. And well, I think that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesus, for your speech. So we are still ahead of schedule at 25 minutes. So it's great. So next speech will be delivered by our unique online speaker, Dietmar Lampert, who is leading the work package number 6, which is about the Living Labs. So Dietmar is a scientific researcher at the Center for Social Innovation in Vienna, and he will share with us the Living Lab approach to Intelcomp. So thank you very much, Dietmar, for being there. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me clear?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, then let me share my screen. So you should see now my presentation.
Yes.
Perfect. Love it when everything works smoothly. Okay, so I will briefly talk about what Living Labs are, for those of you who are not familiar with them, why we chose a Living Lab approach, and what the key elements and principles of our approach are to the Living Labs. But we will also share a bit the challenges that are ahead that are clearly involved. You have heard a lot about the technical endeavors and visions that we have that also bring these challenges, and combine this with this kind of Living Lab approach, of course, poses significant interests and how we tackle those and what kind of strengths we have. Okay, so in terms of what Living Labs are, there is no common understanding of what Living Lab is, or there are even sometimes conflicting definitions of Living Labs. But here I only want to highlight our work definition, our understanding, because it matches quite well with what we do. If you wish, you can read the whole text, but I want to highlight mainly that we are trying to set up a collaborative environment to pursue together with Living Lab participants and explore and experiment. And key here is the real-life context, meaning that we want to shape the tools that we envision based on real use cases that are relevant for, for stakeholders like you here in their professional life. And why a living lab approach? In one word, this. This is much, but this is also by design. So at the end of the event, there will be a test. You're only allowed to leave if you know this table by heart. And obviously, I'm joking, but allow me to direct your attention to the fact that again, we create these tools for people like you. We have different target organizations, different target users. They are slightly different from the kind of product that Jesus presented earlier, and in the different thematic areas that Joseba presented earlier. So there's this kind of complexity. And this leads us to the principle and the key components that we have. And we have the climate change area, the cancer area, and artificial intelligence itself. So these are big, big topics that are really important for everyday's life. And they are emerging as we speak, and possibilities on the technical sides are emerging. So we are trying to harness those. And based on these kind of principles of openness and transparency in the living labs, of basically practical relevance and empowering our participants, and trying to contribute to continuity in these areas, we have come up with a couple of principles. So we have set goals, of course, for each of the living labs, and these are heavily based on the stakeholder engagement. I don't want to go into all of these key areas. I just want to highlight 2 or 3, because it's quite critical that we pursue policy questions that are related to these 3 areas and that are highly relevant for today's task for policymakers and in future agenda setting. So we have defined an initial set of policy questions. Each living lab, these thematic living labs, will pursue and explore their own questions. And of course, now that we have collected these questions, they need to be validated by our living lab participants and expanded, refined as necessary, depending on the needs, of course, and the interests of the engaged stakeholders. Jesus already also indicated that we have a lot of data. These are the bases, the currency of today. The base is basically for all the technical means that we have. And these are largely driven by the policy questions, of course, but there is an additional possibility, and Jesus has already alluded to it, that users may bring their own data and possibly have them enriched and processed. But there is a huge caveat, of course. There are several restrictions in place. Privacy is one potential area, but of course, data quality, availability, and so on are also different factors. But these can be explored in the living labs. So stay tuned. And another big area is the product co-development. So co-creation is really in the DNA of IntelComp, meaning that we want to create these tools together with our potential end users. And all the living labs follow the same approach, even though they are operating in different thematic areas. Anyone who is interested in these areas, in the potential use of new technologies, is welcome to join in and have a say in the development of those tools. And of course, with this approach come certain challenges. So we have to, of course, identify the needs and interests of the different stakeholders who want to be involved while the development unfolds. This is not particular maybe to just IntelComp, but those of you who are not so familiar with the co-creation approach or a living lab approach. So things are very much open in the beginning. Many things will be unclear. There will be some frustrations, but while we go on, we'll understand each other better and have a more common and joint vision of the tools that we are building and also the questions that we should explore and pursue, right? So this is a challenge that we will tackle, and also then finding a balance, because there are many living lab activities that we could undertake, but we have to consider, of course, the limitations and possibilities of our participants. So to strike the right balance is quite a challenge. And then also, you could already see we have huge technical and technological means that are available, but those need to be developed, and also considering the huge topics that are involved and the development that is involved. To triangulate these kinds of different developments and interests, that's a challenge in itself, right? That's a complexity that needs to be tackled. Still, I think I'm convinced actually that we have this kind of capacity, and we have a proven track record. Each of the project partners who are involved, they were recruited specifically for this purpose, the development side, the stakeholder engagement side, and so on. And we build also an existing work. We don't start from scratch, right? We use what's available, and that's a really great start. And of course, we have come up with a solid technical development plan, a multi-year plan, and have set up the Living Labs accordingly, so that we can have an exciting and also fruitful engagement. And how this will be happening in the area of artificial intelligence will be the topic of our next talk given by David. Thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dietmar. And my turn has arrived. So I will try to open the presentation. So it will take me a bit longer than previous speeches for obvious reasons. Okay, so I will start the presentation. So my presentation will be around the Artificial Intelligence Living Lab and the use case that is basically associated to the construction of the Living Lab. So I will talk about the main approach of this use case and how the Living Lab is organized and the future steps and next steps and some messages to be delivered to the stakeholders. So the outline is the one that you see in the slide. So I have divided my presentation in 3 main headings. So first one is the explanation of the use case, the Artificial Intelligence Living Lab use case. The second one has to do with the role of stakeholders around this project, and then I will give some insights, some guidance about the timeline and next steps. So on the first part, the use case, first of all, I will present the main goals of the use case and the basic overview of the use case, and then I will put examples of policy questions which have helped us to somehow build the use case. This is very much related with the speech given by Jesus. And on the third part, I will speak about the relationship between policy questions and data. And then on the fourth, I will speak about the alignment between the Living Lab, the Spanish Living Lab, and the strategic guidelines, basically the ENIA, the National Strategy on Artificial Intelligence, but not only the ENIA, but also some other strategic guidelines that should be taken into account. So first of all, on the goals and overview of the general overview of the use case, of the Spanish use case. So you know that FECYT, the Spanish Secretary of Digitalization and Artificial Intelligence, has been commissioned to be an IntelComp tester, and that's why we are creating an Artificial Intelligence Living Lab. And basically, this Artificial Intelligence Living Lab is created by delivering a use case, so an use case, some kind of pilot, is to be created to experiment with different IntelComp tools. Not only some of these IntelComp tools have been delivered by Jesus in his presentation, not only the interactive model trainer, but also the STI viewer and the STI portal. So you know that the evaluation workbench is an additional tool that is present in the IntelComp, but as FECYT, we are going to be concentrating on IMT, STI viewer, and STI portal. Okay, so in order to create and to effectively create the use case, I mean, the role of stakeholders, it's quite relevant. It's crucial because stakeholders are to play a relevant role in streamlining and optimizing the final product, the use case, by deploying different co-creation and experimentation practices and tools. So this is basically the overview of the Artificial Intelligence Living Lab. And then I will extract and I will explain the main goals of this Living Lab. So we have a primary goal, and then we have two complementary or two additional goals. The first goal of this Living Lab is to provide a full picture of the Spanish science, technology, and innovation artificial intelligence ecosystem, and this is done in order to optimize policy action undertaken by CEDIA. This is the basic goal, but we have two additional goals. The first additional goal is to try to involve to fully involve the four components of the quadruple helix in our Living Lab. And the other secondary goal is to serve as an useful instrument, this Living Lab, to meet the main Spanish strategic policy guidelines on artificial intelligence. As I said before, not only the ENIA, but also some other strategic guidelines, which are very much aligned also with ENIA. So you see the first complementary goal is to try to engage the four components of the quadruple helix. And what are the components of the quadruple helix? The ones you see in the slide. So by the components of the quadruple helix, we are referring to effectively involve not only public administration, but also academia, the business sector, and also the community. The community, the civil society, globally speaking, and that's why a wide array of stakeholders are present here, not only here in person, but also online, because we need all the stakeholders, all the components of the quadruple helix in order to fully deliver a good use case and a good Living Lab. Okay, so having said this, so we are onboarding different stakeholders of different profiles, academia, public administrations, business sector, and community. First thing to do is to select some topic of interest. So, and that's why you see in this slide that there are different topics of analysis coming from different stakeholders. So just to brief go through the slide, if we, for example, concentrate on academia, you see some examples of selected topics of analysis which are of interest for people coming from academia. And some of these topics are, for example, the analysis of impact publications in AI, or, for example, the AI research groups. So how many groups are deploying AI research in Spain, or what are the emerging trends in AI for here in Spain? On what is the size of the AI patent ecosystem here in Spain. And if we concentrate, for example, in community, which is the civil society, we can say, for example, we can be interested, for example, in knowing what is the perception of community, of civil society in terms of the relationship between the AI and the Sustainable Development Goals, or what is the sentiment of, or the feeling of AI for people here in Spain. So there are many topics of interest that are rising when we are fully involving the different components of the quadruple helix to create our artificial intelligence living lab. So if we translate these topics of analysis in prior to this, let me just emphasize that I told you that, I mean, these topics are somehow belong to the different stakeholders, but in some particular questions, in some particular topics, it seems that these topics are of interest for all stakeholders. They are quite transversal in nature. So, for example, the topic, the AI patents topic, can be of interest not only for academia, but also for people who are coming from the business sector, or even for people coming from public administration. No? For example, if we are interested in finding the main research groups in Spain studying AI, obviously this is useful for people from academia, but also for people coming from the business sector. So there's a kind of transversal nature, no, in many of these topics of interest, and that's why, I mean, the four components of the quadruple helix should be involved, okay, at the same time, simultaneously. Okay, then we have some topics of interest, and then our main challenge was to translate these topics into policy questions. And this is quite aligned with the speech given by Professor Jesus Cid. He mentioned some of the policy questions that are underpinning our platform, and in our case, we devoted some time, quite a long time, just coming up with different policy questions that could be of interest for creating the artificial intelligence living lab. So here you have in this slide some of these questions. Obviously, there are much more questions. We have a long battery of questions, but just to mention one of these questions, for example, one important question to be answered by our living lab is there any artificial intelligence field where Spain stands out in terms of research and or innovation with respect to Europe? What are the main strengths and the main weaknesses of our AI ecosystem? Or, for example, could be a different question: to what extent are companies and entrepreneurs working jointly with academia to come up with AI innovative solutions? Or, for example, to what extent are the AI topics of current public tenders aligned with the AI topics of interest of business and research groups? Are they correctly aligned? Or, for example, what are the main topics on artificial intelligence debated in the Spanish Parliament? What is the sentiment of this intervention? So there are, you see, lots of questions that may be analyzed in the light of the previous selected topics that were identified. So this was like the set bit of everything, but you know that, I mean, these questions, you see, the questions that you see in the slide, they can be identified, or they can be ordered, or they can be classified according to the 7 traditional functions of research and innovation policy. As you see in the slide, there are basically 7 functions of the innovation policy. First function has to do with entrepreneurial activity, but we can have also a function to create knowledge, or a function to create linkages between different components of the STI ecosystem, or we have also the guidance function, or market formation, or resource mobilization, or just the creation of legitimacy. So there are many research and innovation policy functions, And these policy functions has allowed us to shape the different questions. So the questions have been ordered or have been classified according to the different research and innovation functions. And then in the slide, you see just very brief examples of these questions and how these questions are classified according to the different functions of innovation and research policy. And what you see here is also the way to proceed in our work. So first thing to do is to come up with different questions, policy questions. And then obviously, if we have questions, the first thing to do is to try to answer the questions. And how to answer the questions? Obviously, we need some KPIs, key performance indicators, or some kind of measurement, how to measure the question. This is the first thing to do. Second thing to do is to find some data sources, because we have questions, but we don't know any data. To find a solution, there's no way that's completely useless. That question would be completely useless. So that's why we have questions, different policy questions. We have some different ways of measuring these questions. And then obviously we have to find different data sources in order to meet the solution to the different questions. And obviously, once we have the data sources found and the measurement of the ways of measuring the question found, we need also some taxonomies to be applied in order to somehow provide different solutions for this question. And obviously we have some responsible people for finding the data sources and to come up with measurement issues. Obviously, I have disclosed the responsible of the different questions, because these are people from the consortium, so there's no need to show who is the responsible of every question in this case. But just to show you a brief example of a question and how we have been proceeding to come up with solutions. So a question of interest could be, are there companies, Spanish companies, involved in EU AI-related funded projects? And obviously, the first thing to do is to measure the question, and we can measure the question by just trying to measure the total budget of funded projects coming from Spanish companies which have applied for EU projects. What is the average budget of the projects? What is the number of companies who have successfully applied and obtained funding from the European Union? And what is the share of companies who have been able to obtain funding from the European Union? This can be some measurement ways, ways to solve this question. The data source, the main data source in this case would be Cordis. This is a database that provides lots of information on EU projects, and obviously this Cordis database should be ingested in the IntelComp platform. And this is the way to proceed with many other questions and many other data sources and measurement issues associated to the question. Obviously, we can solve the question providing useful analysis in terms of NACE, so we can identify companies according to the belonging of a NACE, a sectoral classification. We can analyze this in terms of scientific discipline. We can analyze this in terms of the different technologies that are involved in the projects, the successful projects, the European successful projects, and so on. So the same applies, for the different questions. So I'm not going to go through the different questions, but you can see that the questions are identified according to the belonging of research and innovation policy function. You see, for example, the third one, which is the knowledge linkages and diffusion. We have some other questions associated. The same applies, for example, in terms of guidance, which is the fourth function of innovation and research policy. The seventh, we have examples of the seventh function, and so on. But just to finish with this section, I would like to emphasize the external coherence of this Living Lab. You know that this Living Lab is quite committed to ENIA, which is the National Strategy on Artificial Intelligence. We all know that ENIA is strongly committed to the development of artificial intelligence in Spain, as Ezequiel has emphasized. So in order to do so, we need a sound understanding and knowledge of the STI, of the Science and Technology and Innovation AI ecosystem. And that's why we think that this Living Lab is quite useful, because if we are able to provide a full picture of how this ecosystem, this AI ecosystem works, we will be able to somehow streamline and optimize and revamp and boost the actions of ENIA, the different ENIA instruments and programs. That's why it seems that there is a virtuous cycle coming from ENIA, and then we are like a very small part of this area trying to somehow boost ENIA actions by creating this Living Lab, this part of the IntelComp Project. So this is the external coherence of this Living Lab. But I told you that obviously the ENIA is the main commitment of this Living Lab, but we shouldn't. We should take into account that apart from ENIA, we have some other strategic guidelines operating right now in Spain. The second operating guideline has to do with the recovery, transformation, and resilience plan. You know that in this plan there's a component. This is the component number 16, which is very much committed with the delivery of actions on artificial intelligence. You know that this recovery, transformation, and resilience plans was delivered by the government of Spain and is strongly aligned with the National Strategy on Artificial Intelligence. And we shouldn't dismiss also the importance of the new language economy, PERTE, that has been mentioned by Richard in his speech. So there are at least three main strategic guidelines which are very much aligned to the delivery of this artificial intelligence Living Lab. So this is more or less the approach of this Living Lab, and then I will focus my attention on stakeholders. I mean, you are the real protagonist of this adventure. So first thing to do is to say thank you to all of you for being here, be it in person or attending online. We are 42 stakeholders, at least the ones that were registered for this meeting, which is not bad. This is a good figure to start with. And let me say something about how the stakeholders will be organized now onwards. We have thought about the system of engaging stakeholders and the way to proceed now onwards. And we have decided to split the stakeholders into different groups. On the one hand, we will have so-called group of core stakeholders, and then we will have the extended stakeholders. So what is the difference between the core stakeholders and the extended stakeholders? Well, basically the core stakeholders are supposed to be present at all artificial intelligence Living Lab events, and they will play a major role in the monitoring the co-creation processes, which is very much important, quite important in this Living Lab activity. The core stakeholders will have representation from the different components of the quadruple helix. I will mention more evidence about this in a minute, but let me say something about the extended stakeholders. Extended stakeholders, obviously, they will be welcome at all Living Lab events that are going to be organized, but I mean, the obligation, they have only one obligation, is to be present in thematic events. You know that we will split the events according to different interests and themes, and obviously they will attend the thematic events, but welcoming on all events, obviously. And apart from the core stakeholders and the extended stakeholders, there's an additional agent that is to be present in the Living Lab events, not only in this artificial intelligence Living Lab, but in all additional Living Labs. You know that there's a Living Lab about cancer and another one about climate change. They will have the same figure as us. This product owner will be an expert in the artificial intelligence, and they will be like the interface between the technical team and the Living Lab stakeholders. So it remains to be seen who is the product owner for the artificial intelligence Living Lab, but probably it will be a person coming from the staff. I mean, from Intelcomp. We don't know the name, but what we know is that there will be someone delivering the role of the product owner. So let me say something about the core stakeholders. I told you that they have like a major role on monitoring the co-creation. It's important to stress that they will represent the different components of the quadruple helix. It means that there will be core stakeholders coming from industry, core stakeholders from public administrations, from academia, and from civil society. So we have decided on different grounds. If somebody is interested about it, I can explain. We are completely transparent about it. But we have decided that the names you see in the slide will be the representatives of the core stakeholders for each component of the quadruple helix. So in the case of the business or industry part of the quadruple helix, there will be two core stakeholders. So first of all, we have Mr. Miguel Ángel Liebanas, CEO of Human Trends, who is attending the event in person. He is representing a startup, and we have the contrast. We have Mr. Richard Benjamins, who is working for Telefónica, and also he's working as a co-president of Odisea. So I think it's a very attractive mix of profiles, and on public administrations we have been thinking of different profiles, and we have finally has been decided that David Perez, who was a pioneer in the natural language processing, will be part of the core stakeholder team, and he used to work for Cydia some years ago, and right now he's working for the tax agency. And on the other hand, we will have councillor from the town council here in Spain of a medium town, and I think it's quite an interesting mix, no? People coming from the central administration and from the local administration. Then from academia, we have. I don't know if they joined because there were many people. What I know is that Miguel Castillejo is not present. I mean, he wasn't able to attend this meeting, but we have confirmation from David Perez, and he was registered for this event. I don't know if at some point he was there. No, it seems that he's not present, but he was quite engaged and willing to be part of this living lab. So on the academia, we have Professor Oscar Corcho, because I mean he was also pioneer because he attended a consultation workshop that was held a year ago, and that's why he was invited to this event, but he was unable to attend. And then we have Professor Idoia Salazar, who is a professor at CEU San Pablo and also president of the Odisea think tank. So, I mean, welcome to the core stakeholder team. This is the end. This is the end of a long way. And let me just say something about the role of stakeholders. Just 4 killer messages for you to have. First of all, the stakeholder group is not closed. I mean, hopefully more stakeholders will be joining us for the next event and for the next months. And we have some people in the pipeline who are willing to attend and who are willing to join the project, but unfortunately they were not able to attend the meeting today. Then second message is please help us to create a bigger base of stakeholders. So if we are able to increase the base of a stakeholder, I mean the outcome of this project will be much better because co-creation will be much more fruitful and rich. Third message is the degree of engagement may vary throughout the project. So, I mean, this is not something that is going to force you to do things. You completely decide your role in this project. And fourth message is, this project is about experimentation and co-creation. This means that there are lots of things that remains to be delivered and to be dealt. We don't have answers. We have lots of questions, and we need your help to try to answer the questions and the challenges we have now in our mind and in our hands. Okay, so some insights on timeline and next steps. So, in principle, the number of so-called big events will be five big events to be held, including this one. So the participants obviously will be representatives from the quadruple helix. The location, there will be a mixture of hybrid and online workshops. I will explain more or less how this combination is going to be applied. We will use some kind of online tools, agile or participation-based online tools like Miro and some other tools that can be helpful to spark co-creation. The target audience will be like 15 or 20 people, participants in thematic events. Not in this event. I mean, in this event, the attendance is larger because this is a kickoff and this is not demanding very precise skills. The facilitators will be at least 2, but it remains to be seen. And there will be a extensive follow-up, implying recording, as in this case. We are recording this session, and then some feedback will be sent after each event. So let's take some time explaining the dates and the stakeholders involved and the nature of the different events to be held. So this is the first. This is the first, as you know, the first Living Lab event. This is the kickoff event, and this has been taken on a hybrid nature. But the next 3 events will be delivered online. Okay, the first event after this one, this will be hopefully delivered in the first quarter to 2023. And this will be around the interactive model trainer and the data needs. So you know that the success of this Living Lab will be mostly dependent on the quantity and quality of data that can be ingested to the platform, and that's why we need your help in order to identify some data needs that may be enriched. No, the final outcome. We have identified some data and some databases, and we are working along with the different members of the consortium to access these databases and then ingest the databases, but we need also your help. So basically the interactive model trainer and data needs event, it will be made up of the core stakeholder group along with academia, because you know that the interactive model trainer is a very much domain expert-based event, and obviously some other interested stakeholders will be also welcome. Okay, so this is foreseen to be held in the first quarter, and then we have the second event. The second event will be around the STI viewer. This is the another interesting tool delivered in this project. So this will be held in the second quarter of 2023, and here the stakeholders involved will be obviously the core stakeholders, but also the public administration stakeholders and obviously some other interested stakeholders. This will be delivered on an online basis as well. Then we have, and obviously there will be a draft presentation of the tool. Basically, the way to proceed is that there will be a presentation of the different functionalities of the STI viewer, and then we will try to elicit some feedback from you, what is missing, how to fine-tune the tool. So that's why co-creation will be crucial. Co-creation coming from you will be crucial for the final outcome. Then we have the third event, which is about the STI participation portal. This is to be held on the third quarter of 2023, and basically will be made up by core stakeholders, industry, business sector, and community, civil society stakeholders, plus other interested stakeholders that are also welcomed. And this is basically about the participation portal. There will be a draft presentation of the tool, and then some feedback will be obtained from the different stakeholders. Okay, and then finally, obviously, I mean, the dates are completely estimates. I mean, the dates haven't been closed. This is just an estimate of the dates, and the final event is to be held on the end of 2023, and this is obviously open to everyone. And this is going to be like a plenary closing event. Possibly it will be held in person or hybrid, on a hybrid nature. But we will there will be some kind of in-person meeting for this event. So there will be a presentation of results. It will be about the presentation of the results of the IntelComp platform. We will emphasize the value provided by the stakeholders in the process of co-creation. And then we will try to spend some time, to devote some time to highlight some possible future use case opportunities that may be arising, no, throughout the process of the co-creation dynamics. So along with these 5 big events, a series of micro events will be carried out with some selected stakeholders to foster co-creation, okay? Because otherwise everything goes down to very big events, and from our past experience, co-creation is very much delivered when this kind of micro events, no, small events are delivered, and not in big or massive events. So basically, this was my presentation. I think it took me a long time, but we are still ahead of schedule. And now, I mean, this is the time for you to speak. The floor is yours. We are eager to know your views about the projects. If you have any doubt, questions, or suggestions, we are very much open to hear your views on this. So thank you very much. Who wants to break the ice? Yes, we can give the floor to people attending online. I don't know if someone is willing to ask something or to express the views, or so we have, I mean, all the stakeholders on from the IntelCom. Joseba is here, Ezequiel, Jesus, me, Dietmar is attending online.
I have many questions.
Okay.
But I don't want to monopolize.
Yes, okay.
So first to others.
Go ahead. Yes, yes, yes. Break the ice, please.
So what's the final objective in terms of the result of the platform? Is this going to be an operational platform that will be hosted somewhere and will be maintained with a team, has a budget? Or is it a project that when the project finishes, then everything disappears?
No, it's an EI. So it's an innovation action project, and it has to have life beyond the project. So yes, I mean, it's a good question. I guess maybe to help understand a little bit, it's the fact is these type of tools are obviously booming all over the place. And what we want to do with this Living Lab specifically is to test it in a specific environment, in a specific case, in Spain, in EI, and in its policies. So that the like you said in your presentation, there's a whole learning process of these technologies. And so the only way it can work is if we learn with something smaller, something we can handle. And so that's the idea. So yes, it's a project, but it's a project that will go beyond it. And the whole idea is to continue, is to build.
Do you have an organization in mind that will take the result and will put it into practice if it works in your Living Lab?
The idea is that the Secretary of State of Artificial Intelligence takes specifically this Living Lab results and use it. Yes, the idea is that they use the result. It's supposed to be useful for them. Yeah.
Well, the platform is going to be deployed at the Barcelona City Computing Center.
Okay.
It's important, okay? Because we have not been very much into this, but in fact, all the technical teams are focused on that. What we have been describing is the testing. But the deployment of the platform is going to be at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, with all, I'm not the technique, maybe different can help me, but with all the services, the tools to get an integrated platform. Okay, so you can put the data, have all the services at hand.
My question is basically about, I mean, I've seen many research projects that do great research, and then the project finishes, and basically it dies.
Yeah, that's why I said it was an innovation action. It's a different type of call.
Okay, but I think this only can work if you, for instance, if it stays in the Barcelona
Yes.
Living Center. So who's going to pay for that?
That's it.
After the project finishes, you have that. You have
We have that planned. We have to have that planned.
Right.
Okay, so the answers will be there.
So it is going to be an operational system.
It's an operational. It's going to be an operational system.
And is it also accessible for everybody?
Yes.
Or only for?
That's the idea. The idea that the different interfaces. Well, we have the interface more for public administration. We have the I think they explained that the different the
industry,
participation portal part. The different. How can I say, interfaces will be specific to the different type of users. So yes, it will be available.
Define the business model, okay? We need to define the business model
Right,
of the platform.
To make it useful, exactly. That's part of, it's the whole part of
the Living Lab.
Right, exactly, that's part of the Living. It's to co-create the tool, okay? To co-create the tool, you need to co-create something, talk about something, so that's why we're talking about INEA. So as an example, or the different questions.
Okay.
Okay.
More
good.
questions, Richard. Because
More
you have many, no? You have many
Go ahead,
questions.
we'll go back
It was the only one. Yeah. Okay.
We don't have mics. Okay.
Okay.
So I suppose that after this topic, after artificial intelligence, you plan that maybe we should listen to other topics such as cancer in France, or we are just going to be focused in artificial intelligence?
No, this is only on artificial intelligence. This is intended to be a use case on artificial intelligence because, we have been commissioned to deploy a living lab on artificial intelligence. The cancer living lab has been commissioned to a different institution that's in France, and the climate change living lab has been commissioned to a different institution in Greece.
But if you're interested, there's the three different living labs will go into parallel.
Yes.
So each one is deployed, is a different leader is developing it, but it's the same type of issues that was addressed.
Yes.
Like
basically, the way of
working
is basically the same. For example, the policy questions. When I explained the policy questions, I would say that 80% of policy questions are the same because we have been co-creating the policy questions, and there's a working package. It is a working package number 1. Which is about the creation of policy questions. So basically, they have been shared, and we have some kind of modulation or customization of the policy questions according to the needs of the different living labs. But we are working very jointly. And Dietmar Lamper is the master of ceremonies of the working package number 6, and he's guiding us to a good point. That's why, yeah.
With many other people. Cecilia, David, could we ask you to repeat the questions from the audience because us remote people can't hear them?
Yes.
Thanks, that's kind.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Small question. These policy questions about it's an examples for working with, and there later are fixed, or later the stakeholder can create another questions dynamically in the future.
Okay, the question, very good question. Whether the policy questions are fixed or whether the stakeholders can develop their own questions. That's a beautiful question, and I think that's very good because the idea is that no, that the questions are not fixed. What happens is when we approach this project, this is based on experience previously. We, like Joseba explained, we had the corpus viewer that was deployed, and we also had data for impact in Greece. And sometimes these types of projects were, how can I say, technology driven, okay? And you didn't have a good basis of what really the policy needs were, what the policymaker wants, what are his or her troubles. So what we did is, in this project, we stopped and took time to say, okay, what can be asked by these type of tools, and how can they be answered through the data, through if it's there, if it's not there. So we had to do how can I say it, a think tank sitting process to say, okay, this is what we think the policymakers want to address, what their needs are, what the society, what industry wants, and this is what we think the EI tools can deploy, the IntelComp tool. But of course, there's other questions, there's other needs. And for example, like when David gave the question of the industry, of if we're weak, strong or weak. Well, yeah, maybe you can look at the data, of course, and manually look at the numbers. But if you want to know the different areas, you want to know the power networks and the relationships. If you want to know the not just how much money they were spending, if they were leaders in the work packages, or if they were, how can I say it, just tasks, taking on specific tasks. So that type of digging deeper in is what we think that the EI tools can do. So no, the questions are just a basis of where we're going to start, because we wanted to start with something, and obviously it can evolve. So new questions, different questions are definitely welcomed.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good, because I have a dream about the tender platform, la plataforma de contratación
yes.
The Spanish government, because it's a horrible tool, and there is very important information that you could go and, okay, I write my open question, okay, I want similar tendencies like this or like that, and it could be really interesting things, so perhaps in the future.
Thank you. I don't know if everyone heard that. There was an example of another question of how to use the Spanish national database of tenders and calls, how to extract useful information, because right now how it is, that whole database is very complex to approach. So yeah, that's an idea. That's a type of data that could be put in, and if possible. I mean, I don't have the answer, but any other questions?
I still have a few.
Go ahead.
So this one is related to the trustworthiness of the platform, and also have some ethical questions. So I understand you can use this platform for solving many policy problems. You could ask, we want to fund research group, we want to have the best research group, so we look them up in the system. Yeah? Of course, the system is a complex system. Maybe not everybody understands it, but it comes with suggestions. Yeah? So there is a question of taking decisions on this kind of information about specific research groups that has an impact on those research groups. So have you thought about the trustworthiness of the outcomes? How real are they? Yeah? What's the bias in the system? And you can also use it to estimate individual researchers. I want to hire a researcher in a certain area. I use the system, and then I can use it as a hiring tool, which is actually going to be regulated in the new AI impact. So it doesn't look like a very, let's say, impactful system in terms of the harm that it can do to people. But if you have other uses of the system, then it actually may. So,
of course, that's a very good point. The question was based on trustworthiness of the instrument. If it's based on how you use it, you can make, how can I say, sensitive decisions, to summarize the question. My position on that is, because it's based on how on the policy cycle for public administration. It's primarily an instrument for public administration. Public administration won't generally use ask these type of questions. What's the best researcher, and then use it in a specific say. What a policymaker would is, what impact has my policy had? So it uses the information to feed into the decision-making process. How is my policy, how is my strategy working right now? So it feeds into what's going on. It gives them a decision to say, okay, it's green light, red light, what's going in, or what should I do next? How should I set my agenda? How should this INEA 2 be? Okay, so this whole policy cycle obviously feeds into aggregated information, and there's other things that a policymaker takes into consideration, the budget, or takes into consideration what the priorities of the minister that's responsible. So there's a whole collective set of tools and of information that the policymaker needs to make these decisions. So per se, I don't necessarily see a problem. with respect to the main objective of Intelcom. But of course, like anything, information cannot be used in a different way if it's just want to target a specific research or a specific hiring. So yes, it's implicit within the design, and that's something that we can take on and make sure that this feeds into the process in general. But it's envisioned as a policymaker's tool.
Maybe you always have to think about dual uses.
Yes, of course, especially when we're talking about EI tools. So yes, you're right. Does anybody else from the consortium want to add on to what I'm just talking about?
Yes.
No, okay, that's all right. Any other questions, issues?
Maybe just that it's valuable. I don't know if you can hear me. Valuable to have these kind of critical people from different perspectives on board, because exactly there are questions that we as a consortium did not consider. Right, that's why it's so valuable to have different people on board. Just a small comment on that.
Thank you, Dietmar. I fully agree with you. Any other questions, issues? Okay.
I'll make one last one, yeah?
Okay.
It's a content one.
Yes.
So you gave some, this is about policy questions, yeah? So I think it's very important indeed that you have stakeholders from the public administration who are supposed to use it. I think you should also think about, so what specific person or what profile is going to use it on a daily basis, yeah? And probably this person needs to take care of that it will exist after the end of the project. Yeah? But I'm very always intrigued about the funds that Europe gives to research, yeah? And then how it moves or not moves into innovation, into the market, and in the end it creates wealth, yeah, for Europe. So in that sense, I think your platform, one of the important policy questions is to find the relation between publications, patents, whether the patents are used in Europe or elsewhere in the world. So it's all about traceability. How many startups are created based on publications, because that's one of the key indicators, which I think Europe is not very well able to understand from an individual perspective of the content, or whether businesses are using it, and then how much of these startups are actually getting European investment or investment from China or from the US. Yeah? And it's also not only that researchers leave Europe, but it's also that technology that is built here leaves Europe and then becomes big in other parts of the world. So I think that kind of traceability, it seems your platform could answer part of this question, and I think today nobody has those answers. But I think you also have to include venture capital, startups. What are the areas of investments? And that needs to be connected with this as well to really have a full end-to-end vision on research.
Yeah, the problem with startups and venture capital is the data shortages. So to my knowledge and to our knowledge, there seems that there is not a big database, including the registration of data of startups. Yes, TechCrunch is part of, has been ingested. For example, the case of venture capital, it's not. I don't think we have the same problem. And in fact, in Spain, we try to include venture capital as one of the policy questions. So, what is the amount of venture capital delivered in the AI? And right now, I mean, we couldn't include this policy question because data shortages. So this one, I mean,
this one also scrape the internet for news about investments. Find companies, see whether the companies are European or not.
I think yes, but it can give you a partial picture of the story.
Always.
Yeah, to what extent it's partial. I mean, yeah, that's the. But yeah, yes, I mean, I completely agree with your vision.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that's, I mean, that's definitely Europe's challenge with the new European research and innovation area priorities. It's making value of the investment. That's the whole one of the number one priority. There's 4 others, but that's basically that the research is converted into innovation, and the innovation is converted into better socioeconomic impact. And so what we want to do in Intelcom, obviously, is help answer these type of questions, because probably the case is in some areas it's working, in some areas it's not. We know in general most of it's not working because that's we're in Europe and we know where we are. So so obviously if we tackle down this big huge question just into something small and within the area of our realm that we're trying to do now, it would be good. And obviously that's what we're going to try to do with this platform. But like you said, these technologies need to learn, and if we try to take a big chunk of something, it won't work. So we have to digest it into something specifically, and hopefully with the Spanish case of the Living Lab of EI, we'll be able to get a bit closer and understand and make the project work. So, and make it live beyond 2023 when is the project end. So thank you very much. Do we have any other questions or final remarks? Okay, so Thorben, we have coffee coming, don't we? Is it somewhere? Maybe you should start bringing it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up. I mean, I'm not gonna really make any conclusions. I guess this is just what it is, a kickoff. So thank you for coming. Thank you for connecting online. I think we did pretty good time. We were a lot shorter than we thought we were going to be. And now we have a lot of work to do. And so thank you very much for coming. And I hope you engage and be part of this Living Lab.
Thank you very much.